Hello, everyone. Welcome to Founders Live Conversations. I am Nick Hughes. I am the founder and CEO of Founders Live. And hey, I'm joined from a special guest, actually joining from Singapore, all the way across the world from me, which I'm located in the United States. We have Alon Weinstock, uh, founder of Oh My Strawberry. Alon, thank you for joining us. Winner of a recent Founders Live Singapore. It's so great. Welcome to the Founders Live Conversations.
Thank you, Nick. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for hosting me.
Yes, it's so great. We have these conversations with our ecosystem and especially our winners to capture your story, for you to share more about your thoughts about entrepreneurship. Hey, why are you building your company? Clearly, the vision and what problems you want to solve. And then, of course, maybe some tips and advice for people that are watching and listening. But, Alon, it would help first to briefly introduce yourself, and then we're going to really talk about, your journey as an entrepreneur.
Sure. Thank you. And again, pleasure to be here. So my name is Alon Weinstock, and I live in Singapore. And I spent over 15 years building global brands like Coca-Cola, KFC across different markets. And through that journey, I learned how to scale products, how to build demand, and most importantly, how to connect brand, pricing, and profitability. At some point, you start asking yourself what you actually want to build for a long term. And that question led to Oh My Strawberry. Um, Actually, as a marketeer, I'm coming from the market itself and coming from what's the demand, what are the needs, and what is the potential. And I don't know if most of the audience will know, but Singapore imports 90% of its products and 100% of its strawberries. And this is how the journey started.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's really amazing, and obviously the name "Oh My Strawberry" really pulls to. We want to hear about it, but we're gonna get there. A lot of, or my question, I always love to ask the questions around entrepreneurship, and what really drives you to really be a founder and actually start your own company. So why choose entrepreneurship when look, the people I talk to, we're all talented. You could go and get, probably a nice, well-paying job, but now you started your company. Why entrepreneurship?
I think that's a great question. And I gotta tell you that like I asked myself several times during this journey now, why do I do it to myself? Because it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. And especially, when you fundraising, and this is the first time I've been doing it in my life. Coming from big organization, big companies, the budget wasn't a big issue. The reason I choose to do it because you come to a stage in your life, then you say, okay, I have the experience. I've done one, two, three things already. How can I make a bigger impact? And when my business partner Dor and Uma, we got eventually we can do so many things together, and the potential is there. So I decided that we have a puzzle. You know what I mean? Everybody's bringing something else to the table. And when all the dots came together, I understood we have a very good something in our hand to make it scalable, but also profitability and something new to the market. In my experience, I always search for innovation and something that people will be able to consume mostly and think about how different and important it can be. But I'm coming now from the health benefit because eventually, I don't know about you, I'm married with three kids, and I see what my kids and my family and other kids or friends are eating. And if we're not going to deal with it now, and we have the possibility to do it in our hands to change some of the habits they will have. So in 15 years, they will eat only not so good and healthy food for them, because all the QSR, all the quick service restaurants is easy to consume. It's not that expensive, but eventually it's not that healthy for you if you eat it every day. So we're trying to take small steps on doing something which is healthier for everybody. And we want to start with strawberries. And you're probably thinking to yourself, like, hey man, strawberries, not everybody's eating strawberries, and not the amount of the strawberries they're eating. But we want to start with strawberries because we have the technology and we have the knowledge and the know-how. But we want to scale up to different crops as well as time goes by for the long term. I hope it answers.
Well, yeah, I like that. You want to make a difference. You want to improve not just your children's life, but your community and hopefully your world. And it's similar to why I started Founders Live, right? So
yes, please tell me, like, what did you start at Founders Live, and maybe you can tell us. I don't know if anybody knows, what have you done before that made you decide, hey, I want to open Founders Live?
Yeah, so I just to be timely here with, or to be efficient with time. The long story short was as I was getting into the tech industry here in Seattle, I was the CEO and a founder of another startup before this. It did not go anywhere. We crashed on the ground basically over 3 years, and 2.5 to 3 years. That experience, realizing like, wow, this is difficult. It's lonely road. Why can it not be more, or at least easier, if not just more enjoyable and supportive? Why is it so hard from 0 to 1? And I realized, like, geez, if I have this problem, and I looked around Seattle and I knew that other founders had this challenge, clearly, not just here in the United States, but around the world, this is something tremendously important to work towards. And secondly, I think that going to even what you were saying, which is like to make impact, to do something purposeful, to leave the world a better place. These are all the reasons why I started Founders Live. And honestly, the start of Founders Live was a much simpler, kind of like a more humble, hey, let's just do an event. And then what you experienced there in Singapore, which was so we're talking in early 2026, okay. That was very similar to the first event that ever was done, which was in March of 2014, so 12 years ago. And
Wow.
it's crazy. It has the format, we've kept it the same, and it just continues to spread around the world. So I mean, I think what I realized was people need and want inspiration. People want opportunity to speak their vision like you did. If you craft a little bit of a competition around it, it makes it fun and intriguing. And if you create something that can be repeated around the world, it will be spread around the world. And now we're seeing the impact, which is very, very important. It's been very fun. But that's the thing, right? And so, I think both of us see, that's the commonality here, is that the making impact, you're improving people's lives with nutrition, and being able to probably, we're going to hear a lot more about Oh My Strawberry, but what we're doing here with Founders Live is improving people's lives in entrepreneurship. And I believe that opens up many doors for a happy life for people around the world.
Yes, let me comment on a few things, because I don't know if everybody, all the listeners actually knows it, but I think Founders Live is doing something that not necessarily that you're doing, but this is an after effect. Meaning, you go into event, like you said, but you see different people and you start building a community, because you see founders in one room, you see supporters in that event as well. And sometimes you can see, potential investors that can help you open doors and maybe a small window, and then you make it at the door. So I think you started with something which is, like you said, let's do an event, but eventually it builds connections. And this is what I love about Founders Live. You're building connections between people. And I'll share with you a small story, short one, that I pitched in a different occasion, not Founders Live, okay? And we were like 10 startups in the room like 150 people in the room. And I was the only one who didn't talk about AI. And I was the only one who didn't say, hey, AI is the future. Hey, we can do AI with 1, 2, 3. And you know what blown away the whole room was? They give us like 5 minutes to pitch, not like 99 seconds in Founders Live. They were more generous. But they give 3 minutes to questions. And I was the only one who passed that 3 minutes because everybody was curious. Hey, why strawberries? How do you build it? What's the timeline? What's the rollout? How is it working? And all that. So in Founders Live, my experience was slightly more, I would say, human connection, because we have 5 pitches, 99 seconds only. And from experienced marketer, I will tell you, when you give people 99 seconds, you're doing an extra job. Why? Because every word you're going to say, it means a lot.
Yes.
Exactly. So you have to like count and practice what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and what's the speed you're going to say it, and pause on the important things. And I really loved it. I mean, I'm being honest, I didn't pitch. My co-founder and CMO, Umar Chia, pitched because she's amazing. She brings 20 years of experience from Ogilvy and such like agencies in the market and branding and marketing. And this is why we are such a good co-founders together and being a team. And the feedback was so good that, you know, when we had the votes at the end, and then Charmaine, which I want to have a great recognition for Charmaine. She's amazing. She's, I think, like the Founders Live city manager. I don't know how you call it.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She goes hands-on on details, everything with empathy and love and devotion to what she does, and connecting between the dots and between the people and between the companies. And when she counted the votes, some people in the crowd started saying, yes, oh my strawberry, before she even, you know, announced the winner. And that was, you know, in a founder's life, actually, you don't have a lot of opportunities when you feel proud of what you do until you get to the stage that, you know, you bringing in revenue, you're successful, your profitability, or you profit already, and profitable, sorry. So in that stage, in that evening, we felt very proud.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that. That's awesome, Alon, and we love to hear it. We want to give a shout out. You know, Charmin did such a great job. And you know, before we close up on the Founders Live Singapore experience, you know, even though you know your co-founder pitched, could you share 1 or 2 things that you felt, you know, that helped prepare for your team for this experience? It's a 99-second pitch, as you said. It's very quick, but we found brevity does create that moment for people to really understand the message that they're trying to send.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let me share with you. I was a professor for 4.5 years for marketing and strategy. And to my students, I told them, you have only like 15 slides to present. And, you know, they came with 99 slides presentation. And I told them, hey, guys, you can do whatever you want. I was more generous, but you have 10 minutes and you have 15 slides. So you have to decide what you're going to present, how you're going to present it. So I took, you know, my learnings, and Uma and myself, we did rehearse and we did change some things regarding our deck. I'm able to make it enjoyable, memorable, but also in a good pace. Meaning, I'm the kind of guy who likes engaging with the audience. So we wanted to ask them questions at the beginning, because, you know, you're hearing like 5 pitches in the same evening really fast. And if you don't create the engagement, then sometimes they don't remember the pitch itself. So I totally recommend to start with engaging, asking questions, ask them, you know, to vote on something, do it quickly, The speed is important there. But eventually, when they start putting their hands up or something like that, it shows accountability and engagement. So this is one. Secondly, don't memorize your presentation, because all of a sudden you're on stage, you're meeting, let's say, 70 to 100 plus people, and people getting pressure. So you don't have to memorize everything, but understanding what your timeline is going to be, what you want to say, and if you're not hitting the same word that you practice it, that's okay. Continue. Don't stop. It's about confidence as well. I mean, I'm looking at you, Nick, and you're sitting there with your experience, and of course, you have the experience of podcasting and standing on stages. I mean, the personality that you bring shows it. So my tip for you guys: do rehearsals next to the mirror, next to your friends, next to your co-founders, next to your wife. Ask for feedback. Don't be afraid to get the feedback. Even if the feedback is negative, it will only improve by time. And that's exactly what you guys need to do.
Well, yeah, thank you for those points were incredibly great for pitching, and I will reconfirm the second one, which is don't memorize your pitch. And I know everyone, you're listening, you're watching, you're thinking about pitching, or you're preparing right now. It can be nerve-wracking. Okay, we get that. And this is the whole point of why I created Founders Live, so we can have an experience where you learn. But what I can tell you is, I mean, the real truth is you practice it enough so you embody the message that you want to send or you want to share in the room, so that you don't need to say every single word as memorized, right? And that's a key thing, because then what that does is it releases you to be confident and calm on stage. And you just, and trust me, Alon, I've been to many Founders Live across the world. I've been to Founders Lives where I don't even know what they're saying because it's a different language than I speak and understand.
Oh, okay.
Even when it's a different language, because by the way, I think I told you this, I travel all over the world. Okay. And, I went to numerous Founders Live events in Indonesia where they're speaking Bahasa Indonesian and I don't even know what's being said. Okay. I don't. I am just over here as the CEO and the founder. I could tell in their body language how calm or confident they were and who was going to win, because they were literally present or they were nervous. And so it's really, really amazing that I could see that even if I didn't even understand the language and the words that they were saying, it was still pretty clear, right? So your advice and your tips on pitching are very, very on point. Thank you. And anyone listening,
Sorry, Nick, I want to add something, because you said something which I thought you're gonna go to that direction. It's about simplicity and being clear. I saw even in our competition, there was one guy who presented, and at the end of this 99 seconds, you ask yourself, what is the idea? What is the solution? I don't understand anything. So my tip for you guys: keep it simple. So if somebody not from your market and not from your industry can understand that, you're there. If they cannot understand that, meaning you have to revert your pitch and do it much more simpler.
You got it. There you go. Keep it simple and be calm. So hey, Alon, let's shift to what you're building. So Oh My Strawberry, Singapore-based agritech company, obviously expanding with AI and robotics-powered indoor farms to produce premium pesticide-free, beyond organic strawberries. Okay, locally grown year-round. This is a pretty amazing thing. So obviously, please expand on that. And you told us a little bit earlier of how you were really viewing, just essentially the food that we eat and the health and nutrition that's so important. What is Oh My Strawberry, and then we'll get into much more around how you're building it.
Okay. Thank you. And I will start with the goal that we have, the belief. We believe the finest fruit deserves to be born where it's eaten. Because think about that. Most of the things we eat, especially in Singapore, are imported. And even, by the way, even in the States. I mean, you live in Seattle, but probably you get things from California or different counterparts around the US, which take them on, let's say, roughly between 12 and 15 hours, 50 hours until you see it, until you reach the shelf. So this is what we believe in, and this is why this model is, can be implemented in different countries around Asia and around the world as well. Um, so let's start from the challenge in Singapore, and then our solution, because I believe that if you have a solution for a need or a problem, then you have something good in your hand. So as I said earlier, Singapore imports 90% of its product. And during COVID, the government decided that they're going to generate a plan, and they call it 30 by 30. And last November, they extended it to 30 by 35, meaning 30% of what they eat is going to be produced locally in Singapore. So they're working on that as a government food security issue, which is important for them, because in COVID, all the borders were closed, and there was a big issue how you get your food in.
Right.
So when I look at the market, 100% of strawberries are being flown in. So think about that. Every day, there's a plane bringing strawberries into Singapore. Think about the carbon footprint. Think how long it takes them before it reaches our shelves. And think what happened to the crop itself. The quality drops, the shelf life shortness. Retailers deal with waste and inconsistency. And I'm telling you that because I talked to them. I talked to the retailers. I talked even to the guy who's arranging all the goods on the shelves. In Singapore, it's called like the uncle. So I talked to the uncle itself and understanding what his pain points. And he told me that his clients complain because 1 week, for example, they buy premium Korean strawberries, which presume to be one of the top in the world, but eventually it's not that good. And the next week they're buying the same package, and again inconsistency, and they're saying 20 to 40%. The strawberries in the pack are not good, so it's a waste.
Wow.
So the consumers pay premium prices for inconsistent fruit. And that belief became the foundation of Oh My Strawberry. So let me talk about the team 1 sec, and then I will go into the technology we have. I met Uma. She's my local business partner, and she's great. She comes from a strong creative and brand leadership background, and we share the same obsession of building things that matter and building brands, for long-term meaning. Because of my experience as being in the customer or client side, like KFC, Coca-Cola, and even before that. So we want to build a brand, because eventually most of the people in the world, they're buying a strawberry through his region. Is it the Japanese strawberry, Korean strawberry, Scottish strawberry, Spain strawberry? That's okay. But eventually we want to build a brand, Oh My Strawberry. And once we build a brand with the values that actually matters, people would like to choose our brand. And it starts with the name, like you said in the beginning. I got to give the credit to Uma. We sat down and thought about names, and she said, like, everybody's talking about, oh my God, it's so good. Oh, it's so amazing. So Oh My Strawberry is going that trend, like OMG. So it's going to be OS. So this is like the creative that comes into like Oh My Strawberry. Then I met Dor.
Yeah.
Dor is our tech partner who built an AI-driven indoor robotic strawberry farm. And that farm is already been operating for the past 3 years successfully. And I met him because he wanted to expand to Asia. And I said, okay, let's go deeper. why strawberries, what is the technology, what is the added value, what is our USP can be. And when we finished that session, I said, listen, man, that's amazing. We have a team in place. Let's build Oh My Strawberry. And this is how we're doing it. So it wasn't an idea. It was already working. And for me, it changes everything, because you said something earlier about entrepreneurship. And I think some of the entrepreneurs, I don't like the word failing, but let's say not succeeding, because they're trying to build the product first. I'm coming from the other way around.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one who's building the technology, because my expertise is branding, pricing, profitability, go to market, etc., and understanding the pain points of the customers. And this is why we have a great team together. So Doors already has the technology. Uma and myself bringing different counterparts and that. And also, from my point of view, it has to be profitable. So what we bring to the table is actually predictability, premium strawberries, and resilience, because we are the only one who can produce year-round production of strawberries. And when I investigated the market, I understand that most of Asia love Japanese strawberries and Korean strawberries. So I dug into it, and they have only one season, Nick. They produce only from December till the end of April, and that's it. So you're probably asking yourself, what happens, around the world in all year long? And the thing is, they're trying to find different crops everywhere, but everybody here has the same challenge of inconsistency, and the crop itself is not good, and the waste. They have a big waste, between 20 and 40% waste of strawberries. And by the way, it's full of pesticide, because it takes them, as I said, roughly around 100 hours to get to our shelves. And during this journey, they have to last, right? So they're full of pesticide. So what we bring to the market, like you said, no pesticide, or get beyond organic strawberries, which are much more healthier for you. And we did blind tests. We brought those strawberries from the farm into Singapore by airplane as well, but no pesticide, no anything. And we did blind tests to retailers, chefs, distributors, and farm owners as well, to understand if they can feel the difference and what do they prefer. So I was very happy to find out that even though I bought in the most expensive supermarket in Singapore, the strawberries they had on the shelf, which was premium Korean strawberries, they, FYI, the prices are really high. So I bought 250-gram package for $18 Singapore dollars. Let's say roughly around 12 to 14 USD for 250 gram.
Huh.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
That's the strawberries which I bought here to compare. And everybody choose our strawberries. And the reason they choose it is that it looks better, the taste is amazing, and the juiciness, less, crispiness, which is hard to say on a strawberry, but coming from KFC, I like to talk about the crispiness. When you take a bite, all of a sudden you feel the strawberry. And that was new to them, because usually the strawberries we eat in Singapore, when you eat it, it's much more watery.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All
of that is obviously you are very, very passionate about this. I just really love it. Let's shift into, or at least talk about, look, you just mentioned, we're talking about year-round growth. We're talking about, essentially growing strawberries in Singapore. Where is this going in terms of obviously using automation and robotics and all of that, intelligence with AI? Speak to where this is all going, where you imagine your operations going with in the age of AI.
I love this question, Nick, because as I told you, I'm kind of guy who like to dig in and understanding where I'm coming from and what am I doing. So Uma and myself went and visited at least 4 farms in Singapore. And all of these farms are like indoor farming. They're not successful. Unfortunately, they are not successful. And I asked them what's going on as an entrepreneur who wants to help them, by the way, for a marketing point of view, profitability, etc. So they told me 2 things, 2 major things, I would say. One is the labor cost, which is not cheap in Singapore. And the second one, the competition which they have. So they're growing leafy greens, lettuce, kale, etc. And the thing is, their cost is not cheap. The electricity, the labor, rent, etc. But what's more important is who their competition. So they're bringing crops from Indonesia and Malaysia, almost half the price of what they're selling their crop. And when you go to lettuce and leafy greens, etc., you don't see a big difference. So they asked me, what am I planning? I said, I'm going, I want to build strawberries. I want to grow strawberries. And I said, wow, man, that's smart. Why? Because our, let's say, neighborhood countries don't have that scale. So when we talk about indoor farming, you have to understand between 2 and 3 major points. First, labor. This is why we have robotic and AI, how to generate. So we have a minimum headcount in place. Minimum, I mean, think about only 2 people in a farm, and everything else is AI and robotics. That's it. Secondly, they're talking about the crop that you're going to produce. So we have the advantage to produce strawberries all year round. That's a huge advantage. The third one is consistency. Nobody in Asia has consistency of strawberries. We can do it because it's indoor robotic farm. And when we talk about organic, listen, Nick, we almost don't have any organic things in Singapore because everything is being imported. And if it's organic, then the price is so high that it's only a niche of the market that consume it. So when you think about robotic and AI in farming, it's really important because you want to lower the headcount and reliable on farmers or like people that actually do the work. And secondly, you want to lower your cost by any necessary step that you can do it. And the third one, we're not controlled by the weather. All the farmers around the world are controlled about the weather, and the climate change is crazy. FYI, China increased their prices of strawberry in the past 3 months by 18%, only because they had a big storm for about 2 days, and it took a lot of their crop. Wow. So we're not reliable eventually the climate. So all these points are very important in what we do. Eventually, if you ask me where we're gonna get, let's say in 3 to 5 years, we want to have everything automated, almost with no people on the ground whatsoever. So it's about robotic. Think about robotic with robot that will take and harvest the strawberry and put it inside the packaging by itself. Today, because strawberry is really sensitive fruit, so if you squeeze it, it's ruined. So at the moment, the robots are not there yet, but I think in 3 to 5 time, yes, everything will be much more automated and much more faster, by the way.
Let's continue the 3 to 5 year vision on, what are you fully building, right? So the name, Oh My Strawberry, is obviously identifying a strawberry, and we don't need to get ahead of ourselves here, but what is the ultimate vision of what you want to build in terms of a company that might encompass other products and or foods and or things. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yes, I love the question because we're fundraising at the moment, and because we want to build the first farm in Singapore. And everybody asks me, are you going to grow only strawberry because of the name of my strawberry? And the answer is no. We're going to produce much more than strawberry. For example, we have a great relationship with one of the biggest retailers in Singapore. And I got to share with you, Nick, that was like a 15 minutes meeting that went so fast because we didn't even sit. We stood up and he tasted the strawberries and he took his own strawberries from the shelf. He tasted it, blind test. And he said, okay, I like those too. I said, excellent. Thank you for choosing all my strawberry. He said, really? I said, yes, you choose all my strawberry. Okay, let's do it quick. You grow it, I sell it. Done deal? I said, yeah, of course. Let's just finalize, the terms and stuff. The other day, he sent me a text. Hey, Alon, can you grow raspberries as well? I said, yes, we can. So that's only a small example of what we're planning to do. First, we're going to start with strawberries because financially and economic, it makes sense. And then we're going to continue expanding our crop to all berries that we want to grow. Plus, cherry tomatoes, we already have the know-how how to get it done and how to grow it with the same facility. But nevertheless, part of the blind test that we had is for different distributors around Southeast Asia, meaning we already have LOI from Thailand, Vietnam, and Philippines. Because they tasted our strawberries, they said, oh man, we haven't tested something similar to this. Once you start in Singapore, succeed, then let's take this model and expand to those countries. So we want to start in Singapore because it's a great place for positioning and proof of concept. Once we secure everything and show everybody in the region that the model works, everything works because we have the technology, we can expand to all these countries which I just mentioned, and they're eager. Like every other week, the guy from Thailand sent me a text. Hey, Alon, when are you going to build the first one in Singapore? Can I come around to see it? I want to come and find a location already in Bangkok and build it for our clients as well.
Oh, look at that. I have no doubt that you're going to be in numerous countries. No doubt whatsoever. So great. Well, let's coming to the end here, actually. Crazy enough. Time flies fast. And let's talk about the lessons that you have learned. And, I can share, or we'll go back and forth on these. It'd be fun. Think about one or two things that you have really learned that you would like to share with others that are listening that might be a little earlier in their journey.
Okay, that's great. But can we start the opposite? I'll tell you why. I want you to start because you've been like 14 years in Founders Life. So you met, I don't know, like between 10 and 100 times more founders than me. And I'd like to, if that's okay with you, I'd like you to share the pain points that you see around the world founders are dealing with. And if you have any idea how to solve it, and then I will add for my part. Is that okay?
Yeah. Well, I would, there's so many, okay? That's really what Founders Live really does. But I think in the end, one of the things that I would share is that there's always an answer to move forward. It's not always the answer that you want to hear. And what do I mean by this? I think most entrepreneurs, most founders, they want to raise the millions of dollars. They want, massive growth quickly. They want to shortcut it and get, in year one, they're making millions of dollars. The reality is that's not the reality for pretty much everyone in the world, right? So it's going to take 2 to 5 times longer than you think. You have to figure out how to operate with low and very little capital, because that's just baseline, right? And so I think a big thing, this kind of turns into advice, is there's always a way for you all, no matter look you're building and you're growing food, okay? And I guarantee that you all have found ways, you just talked about it earlier, very cost-effective ways to achieve what you need to get to the next level, to maybe unlock that next round of capital or even your first investments or whatever the case may be. So, I think that that's it is, a big challenge is that most entrepreneurs around the world think they need more than they they think they need more, when in reality they need to figure out how to solve this problem that's in front of them with the resources they have at their capacity. And it might not be very much at all. Okay, like we're talking about African founders or founders in Indonesia or Southeast Asia, or whatever, even in the United States, and they just don't have a lot of money or capital. You still can do something to move it forward. And I think that's the biggest mistake that founders are making.
Wow, I love it. And it's interesting because let me give you my perspective. From experience and also helping different startups as well, I see that there are a lot of focus on the product itself and not understanding enough the market they're in.
Yeah.
And also, like, they're so obsessed of getting everything right before they start testing it that they're losing the time to market.
Yes,
which is
another
also
one.
important. Yes. And I want to share with you a pain point that we have. Indoor farming in Singapore, the reputation is very bad. Why? Because I would say 95% have failed, unfortunately. So when I go to speak to an investor, I already understand what he's thinking in his mind. Hey, why are you going to succeed if everybody else has failed almost? And also, there's a company that started to grow strawberries and they didn't succeed, but they didn't have the experience. And I don't want to throw out names, but the founder, he didn't have any commercial experience. What he cared about, let me grow strawberries. So my question was to these guys, how did he sell it? And everybody answered me, he couldn't, because the price was too high, lack of consistency. So my learnings and also my tip, guys, when you have a product, when you have a company already, I totally agree with what Nick just said about like understanding the capital. But from my point of view, understand the commercial behind it and the economics. If it doesn't work, something will work around the way. So when I go into the room, I'll share with you like some of the question I asked. Automatically, you see, the look and the body language on their faces and their body. You understand they didn't go and analyze it. So part of it is like, what's the margin you're gonna have? What's your go-to-market strategy? Who are your ICP? Like, where's the target audience you wanna, attack? Why they're gonna buy your product? And for sometimes there are simple questions, but you need days to think about it for the answers, the strategy, and the pricing behind it. So I would say that's my learning and tips. And guys, if you know any potential investor that would like to build with us, the next big thing around agriculture and agritech, please contact us through Nick and Founders Live as well. Yes, that's our website, ohmystrawberry.com.
ohmystrawberry.com. Yes, I think you're just to kind of summarize here, this has been really amazing. And, look, you pointed at some major things where the climate shift and change, how everything's happening. And the other thing is, I think supply chain, which we didn't really talk about too much, but, obviously the issues that we're seeing in with the COVID experience, as well as just, there's geopolitical things happening right now that can break up supply chain stuff. So the ability for countries, no matter where they are in the world, to produce locally the fruit and the food that their citizens need to eat, and most importantly, have that be nutritious and healthy, that's only going to get more important over time. So I think that you guys are positioned well. And I encourage you to continue forward. I can't wait to hear more about Oh My Strawberry and Oh My Raspberry and all the good stuff coming forward here. And my request, I guess, is, making sure that maybe we can have an Oh My Strawberry jam or Oh My Raspberry jam, so I can put it on like a PB&J and have that. So, mental note that, and very excited. But Alon, this has been great. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? Are you active on, social media, LinkedIn or whatever? Share with
Yeah,
us.
of course, of course. Reach out through LinkedIn. I mean, I think this is the main source today. You can contact us through the website, almoststrawberry.com. And I'm happy to talk to anybody, Let me share with you, Nick, sometimes that when you reach out to people, when you're a very senior position, for example, in Coca-Cola and KFC, I always said to people, even entrepreneurs, even, students, hey, can I talk to you? I said, yes, because eventually I believe that if we're kind, people will be kind to us. So,
Yeah.
like you said, hey, let's go to do this podcast, and you're kind, and you're doing something amazing, I think, for founders, because you build a community that support each other. So, guys, if I take this stage and says, please be kind to each other, I think it's important. And I really appreciate, Nick, everything you guys are doing. And hopefully I'll be able to see you in Singapore, and you'll be able to taste our strawberries and have live streaming from our founder.
Absolutely. I cannot wait for that. Elon, it's very enjoyable to chat with you today. For everyone, check out ohmystrawberry.com. Find Elon on LinkedIn, on other places. And for that, everyone, hey, this is Founders Live Conversations. We have conversations and interviews with founders around the world. Until next time, everyone, hey, stay safe, keep pushing, and see you later.